You're not lazy. If you were lazy, you wouldn't feel guilty. You wouldn't lie awake thinking about what you should have done. You wouldn't rehearse conversations in your head. You wouldn't promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. You're not lazy. You're avoiding something. And the thing you're avoiding is powerful enough that your brain would rather call you undisciplined than expose you to it. Let's make this concrete. You don't send the message. You don't book the appointment. You don't check the result. You don't apply for the position. You don't confront the tension in your relationship. You don't open the financial statement. Instead, you reorganize your desk. You scroll. You research. You say, "I'll deal with it later." Later is one of the most socially acceptable lies we tell ourselves. Avoidance feels rational in the short term. It reduces discomfort immediately. It postpones anxiety. It protects you from rejection, embarrassment, conflict, or failure. Your nervous system does not distinguish particularly well between physical threat and social threat. A difficult conversation can activate stress responses similar to physical danger. So your brain looks for relief. Relief is found in distraction. This isn't time management failure. It's emotional regulation. Procrastination is not about productivity. It's about fear. Here's the deeper mechanism. If you don't try, you don't fail. If you don't ask, you're not rejected. If you don't look, reality doesn't change. Avoidance protects your identity. Because the moment you act, something becomes defined. If you apply and get rejected, you receive feedback. If you confront your partner, the relationship becomes clearer. If you check the test result, your situation becomes concrete. Clarity is stabilizing, but it is also irreversible. So you stay in suspension. Suspension feels safer than exposure. But there's a cost. The symptom you ignore doesn't disappear. The tension you avoid doesn't dissolve. The decision you postpone doesn't evaporate. Avoidance doesn't remove consequences. It compounds them. And this is where identity erosion begins. In the previous episode, I argued that most people don't know who they are. One reason is this. You don't discover who you are through introspection alone. You discover who you are by how you behave at the edge of discomfort. The boundary you set. The conversation you initiate. The truth you're willing to face. Those moments define you. When you repeatedly step away from them, you remain undefined. You describe yourself in potential. I could do more. I have potential. I just need the right time. Potential often means postponed action. Now let's remove the moral drama. Avoidance is not stupidity. It is not weakness. It is not a character flaw. It is an efficient survival mechanism. The brain prioritizes short-term safety over long-term development. Comfort today outweighs growth tomorrow. That is the logic of what I call the selfish animal. The selfish animal wants predictability, low threat, immediate relief. In modern life, we rarely face predators. We face emails, conversations, decisions, medical results, financial reality. Instead of running from danger, we run from clarity. And we call it being busy. Here is a more uncomfortable observation. When you say you're overwhelmed, sometimes what you mean is, "I don't want to look at this." When you say you lack motivation, sometimes what you mean is, "I'm afraid of what I might find." That is why productivity systems often fail. You can install routines, apps, planners, optimization frameworks. But no system eliminates fear. No calendar neutralizes avoidance. What works is much simpler, and much harder. Honesty. Ask yourself, What am I currently avoiding? Not in theory. Specifically. A person. A message. A decision. A document. A conversation. There is usually one thing that carries more weight than the rest. You already know what it is. The moment you identify it, you will feel resistance. That resistance is the signal. Not laziness. Not incompetence. Resistance. And here is the paradox. When you move toward the avoided thing, even slightly, anxiety often decreases. Clarity stabilizes you more than postponement ever does. Action defines you. Avoidance keeps you abstract. In psychology, we already know the solution to this pattern. It's called exposure therapy. If someone has a phobia, you don't eliminate the fear by avoiding the object. You reduce fear by gradual, controlled exposure to it. You approach the feared stimulus in small, deliberate steps. The nervous system recalibrates. The threat shrinks. The same principle applies here. The only reliable way to reduce avoidance is exposure. Not dramatic action. Not impulsive transformation. Deliberate, repeated contact with what you've been stepping away from. The selfish animal wants comfort. Exposure creates growth. An identity is built at the edge of what you stop avoiding. In the next episode, we'll go one step further. Because once you see avoidance clearly, you have to confront something even more destabilizing. The story you tell yourself about being a good person. And that story might be another form of protection. For now, start here. Identify the thing. Take one controlled step toward it. Not perfectly. Just deliberately. That's how fear shrinks. And that's how you stop calling yourself lazy.